This video is going to show you how to fix peeling on faux bonded or Bycast leather.
Okay, so here we have actually a very common issue, and this is what's called peeling leather. We found a little scenario here. This happens to be on a jacket, but it happens to, boots, shoes, purses, leather furniture, car interior, whatever manufacturer uses this type of bonded material. You can see how it's just a very light peel. Okay, now the way you would fix that is, and the easy way, is basically just with our leather dyes. Our leather dyes actually double as a glue, okay? This is a black A, okay? This was the original color of the jacket. Since this is, somewhat faded and, over the years, it has a little bit of like a brown hue to it. But we're gonna use a black A because that was the original color jacket. I don't really think you're gonna notice that much of a difference. But just simply, we're gonna show you how to fix this up just with the dye, and then we're gonna check it out, and if we need a filler, we're going to apply a little bit of our leather filler into the area needed, if we need it at all. Let's see how good of a job we can do just with the dye. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back. We got our gloves on. You're gonna get the bottle of dye. You're gonna put the Loctite cap on it. You're gonna shake it up. And if you're to have any bubbling or anything like that, sometimes people get a pin and poke into the bubbling, and then apply the dyes and push the dyes down in through those little holes that you push, and you can potentially glue bubbled areas down before they peel, because the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to sort of bubble. There's going to be loss of adhesion from this polyurethane to the backing, and then through aggression or through rubbing or whatever, you're going to break that bubbled area open, and then it's going to peel just like this, as you can see. Can you see that, or do we need to zoom in a little bit more? Maybe we can zoom in just a little bit more here. Okay, there, now it's really zoomed in. So the easiest way to do this is get your dye, apply some dye to the area, and open up those peeled areas to try to get it underneath the peeled areas. See how we're opening it up? We're just opening up the peeled areas just like that. Okay, now, whoops. You want to make sure you always get the dye underneath the peeled area. Very important. So now we're going to potentially, those flaps are going to be glued down with our dyes. Hopefully you can see this. Okay. Yep. We're getting there. Okay. Okay, just make sure, try to get all those flaps down, sort of glued down like this, and let them sit overnight. And we're going to see what we have the next day. Okay, that looks pretty flat. That looks pretty flat. See, sometimes it's wrinkled a little bit. Try to make it all nice and flat. And even while this is drying and curing, you can go ahead and sort of press those peeled areas down. So we're just going to let this sit, and we'll be back. You know what? We might even try to dry it a little bit, with our hair dryer, so we can make sure that all those peeled and flapped areas are glued perfectly straight. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back. We're just drying this area up. We use a heat gun, but we recommend you use a hair dryer. Okay. So now we can see a little bit better what's going on here. We'll zoom back in again. So this area is the area where there's a missing peel, and this area here you can still see that there's like stress cracking and everything. So that means this area here we actually want to apply more dye. And we just want to let it soak down into that area. And here too, apply some more dye and let it soak down into that area. And here, let it soak down into that area. And you can even put the dye, you know, you can puddle it a little bit there if you want. See? So there's a good amount of dye inside here. So since we have the dye in fairly thick, you can even put a couple drops into that area where there was actually no peel. There was missing finish right here, as you can see. See right there? And right here where there's a crack, we're going to put a little bit more dye. See, we're just going to flood that area a little bit. And where there was a little bit more cracking or it needed a little bit more help, we're going to sort of flood that area. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry overnight, and then we're going to show you what it looks like the next day. We'll be back. Okay, so we are back the next day, and as you can see here, this peeled area has all been glued down with just our dyes. So let's check it out. Let's test it out here. Can we go like this? Can we roll it between our fingers? Can we do all kinds of stuff? You can see the strength in it. Can you see the strength in it there? Okay. Now, if in fact your couch just had peeling, you could effectively glue them all down just like this. And as you can see, this is really the real deal here. Like, this is actually fixing this. It's not opening up again. But right here, where you can see that the peel is actually missing, and if you look really closely here, you can see some stress cracking. What we want to do is we want to fill that in. And the way we would fill that in, of course, is with our leather repair filler right here, the kit, okay? It comes with, of course, let's zoom out a little bit so we can see what we have here. We have, of course, the instructions and the packing slip. We have the sandpaper if we need to sand it down, but you don't necessarily need the sandpaper. You have the rubber gloves and you have the leather repair cloth. So if you did happen to have a rip, you would cut the cloth, you would feed that within the rip, and you would apply the filler in the rip and sort of glue it down, okay? And then of course you would let it dry overnight, and then the next day we'd put a nice little thin skim coat over top of it, which is basically what I'm going to show you now, and then you'd have a nice repair. But here, of course, is the leather repair filler. Really good stuff, okay? And you're gonna see the consistency of it. Whoops. There's the consistency of it right there. There's the filler. So we're gonna take the filler and we're gonna try to correct that area where, whoops, we have this peeling, or this peeled off area. We're going to try to make that look better. Can we see that on the camera? Okay, so we're just going to take a little bit of filler. That's all you really need. You don't need much. And we're basically just going to lay it on there like that. No big deal. And you're just going to spread it in. And what you want to do here is you don't want to apply a thick coat like that, because then people are going to say, oh my God, look, the grain is gone and all this stuff. You want to apply it in there, and then you just want to scrape it off like this. So you're leaving the grain intact to a certain degree. You know, nothing's perfect here. We're doing a repair. Perfect repairs are the pretty ones that look great that don't really last, and the really ugly repairs are the ones that look terrible, but they last forever. That's just the way it is. So what we want to do is we want something in the middle. We want to fix the area so it doesn't open again. The majority of customers, I mean, again, we don't sell the products. We're leather refinishing specialists, and in our years of business since 1898, I mean, I'm fourth generation, and I've been in this game for about 25 years. The majority of customers want something that they're going to pay for that's going to last, and it's a bonus if it looks nice or really good. But if you make something that looks really good that's not going to last, you're going to have a problem. So that's our way of thinking. So right here, you can see the little inconsistencies, and you can apply the filler in there, and you just sort of scrape it off. Okay? You just sort of scrape it off, just like that. Now this little thin coat in here, you know, if we put a hair dryer on it or something like that, I mean, we use heat guns, but with heat, not everyone's got a heat gun, and they're pretty hot, and you can burn things pretty quick with a heat gun. But a hair dryer, everyone has availability to a hair dryer, most people. And if you just put that on here for about 2 or 3 minutes, that should be good enough, okay? Just a very, very thin skim coat like this. I mean, we have the heat on here in the shop, and it's blowing out about 75 degrees, and I can already tell this is already, you know, curing up on us. So what we're going to do is we're going to dry this up a little bit, and then we're going to start to lay the dyes on. So a really thin skim coat like this, you could probably get away with maybe a couple hours, you know, under normal circumstances for it to just air dry. Or if you had a heat gun or a, well, you know, a hair dryer, of course, if you put the hair dryer right on that for about 2 or 3 minutes, it would probably be good enough to start to apply the dyes on. So we're going to dry this up. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back. This area here, we dried it up really well with the hair dryer, and we left it, I don't know, about an hour or 2. And as you can see and feel, there's strength in that, and I do believe that the majority of the moisture that's in the filler has migrated out, or evaporated, or dried up, whatever you want to call it. So what you want to do is feel it. So if it's rough, you know, what you want to do is go into your kit and get your sandpaper. And I mean, this doesn't really need to be sanded, but I'm going to show you how to sand it just in case it did need to be sanded. You don't want to rub and scrub and do all that kind of stuff and make more damages. What you want to do is you just want to gently, see? Gently sand it. All you're looking for is to see if it's smooth. If you want to put your hand in it, well, with a jacket, you can put your hand underneath it. With a couch, it would just sort of be sitting there, and you just be gently doing this. And what you want to look for or feel is that it's nice and smooth, and it pretty well is nice and smooth. All right? So just dust that area off. Just make sure it's free and clear of any sort of, you know, pieces of the filler or what have you from your work. You want to get your dye, you want to shake it up. And now we want to put some dye over top of this. Again, this was a bonded or Bycast leather jacket that's fairly old, has been faded out, and it's starting to look a little bit brownish. It's got a little bit of a brownish hue, but it is a black A color, okay? Which is like a charcoal or a graphite, okay? But when black fades, sometimes it fades to like a purplish hue or a brownish hue or something like that. So, if some people are saying on the video, well, that doesn't match, well, all you have to do is put a thin coat into the whole panel, just like this. See, like that? And just sort of blend it in. And when that dries, it's going to look beautiful. And if you wanted to, you could apply it over the whole coat and you'd pretty much have a brand spanking new coat again. But let's see what we can do with the dye. You can put it on like that, and you can sort of dab it on, or you can put it onto the sponge so you have control over it. You're not going to make a mess. And you can just sort of dab it on like this. Okay. Very easy to work with. Apply it, let it dry. Apply it, let it dry. Apply it, let it dry. Okay? When you wipe it on, you're putting on thin coats. When you dab it on, you're putting on thicker coats. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna dry it in real time. I have a heat gun, and we always put our hand down near the repair when you're dealing with a heat gun, because if you can burn your hand, you can burn the material. So, with a hair dryer, you don't have those problems. Okay, so it was shiny, and now as it's drying, of course, it is looking a little bit more matte. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's put a glove on maybe, because I don't want to get dye all over my hands. And put a couple more drops on there. And now we're going to wipe a little bit more dye into the rest of the panel so it matches, so it blends in. Okay. Just like that. Very simple, very easy. I mean, you can't really get much simpler than that. And you want to dry this up. Okay, now with the filler's white. So, although this looks good, I would probably recommend putting about 2 to 3 coats of the dye over top of the filler to totally hide the filler, so you won't get any ghosting. If you're applying the dyes over top of the filler and if you don't have enough dyes over top of the filler, they will sort of kind of look a little bit hazy or white in those areas. That just means you just don't have enough dye on there. So we're going to dab on another coat of the dye like this, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to dry it again just like this. Okay. Now let's see what we have here. So we glued down all the peel. We put some filler in there, and we put some dye over there. What do we have now? Let's take a look at what do we have. Can you see what we have? That's a pretty good repair. That's a pretty nice repair. You can see it. See? We're showing you in highlight, in glare, so you can see everything. There's no imagination. You don't need to wonder about anything. Okay? So now the way we would finish this off is, of course, nothing here is really 100% dried and cured, but with our dyes, of course, you know, it's not going to come off in your hands. I had some dye on there from not putting my gloves on, but as you can see here, my hand, if you go like this, nothing's coming off on it, okay? So to finish this, to protect this area, since there's filler, since there's dye, to protect that, what you would do is you would go into your kit. Let me just adjust the camera, and you would take the sealer right there, because that's the top coat, and you would take the sprayer and you would open it up and you would just poke in there like that, and you would put your sprayer in there just like this, and then you would shake it up, prime it a little bit, get yourself a sponge right here, a new sponge, spray the sealer onto the sponge. Let's get this flat so we can apply it, and you're basically gonna wipe it in just like this. Okay, and just to note, if you load this up with sealer and you sort of wipe it on so it's like glistening wet, it's going to be shiny. But if you wipe it on like I did and then continue to wipe it while it's sort of drying, you're going to create more of a matte finish. Okay, now we're going to dry this area up. Okay. And let's see what we have now. Can you see what we have? We have a repaired area that was peeled. We'll probably put in a half and half picture or something like that so you can see it. But there it is right there. That's fixed, and that's gonna have flexibility. I don't wanna really push it too much right now because this is all dry to the touch, but it's not cured till overnight. And when it perfectly cures overnight, that's when you get the real strength and the flexibility. So what we'll do, I mean, this is a really nice repair, and if it's on your couch on a headrest area or an armrest area or something like that, and all you're gonna be doing is sort of putting your hand on it or something like that, nothing's gonna happen. We like to test our finishes and all the rest of the stuff, but nothing's really gonna happen with that. That's a really nice repair, quick and easy. And of course, again, what this was our small leather dye repair kit. Comes the cleaner, the dye, the sealer, the gloves, everything that you need. And of course, we filled it in with our leather repair filler kit. Okay, in the kit, of course, you know exactly what you get, but these are the two most important things: the nice palette knife for application, and of course the filler. And you can find this and many other products at leathertouchupdye.com. Oh, and one more little tip too. If you were to do a repair like this on your couch where you're going to fix peeling, or if you're going to do anything like this and you were to apply the dyes and the sealer and everything over top of this, okay? Let's say a week later or 2 weeks later, you say to yourself, oh gee, I should have put a little bit more filler right there. With our products, you can do that. You can literally get your filler, scoop out a little bit of filler, apply it over top of the dyes, over top of the sealer, just like this, fill in the little areas that need it, scrape it off, let it dry overnight, and simply do it all over again. Apply the dyes over top of the filler, 2 or 3 coats, make it look pretty, and then apply the sealer over top and you're done. And again, even if you did that 2 or 3 weeks later, if there was another little area that was bugging you, oh, I should have put a little bit, then you take the filler, you put it into that little area, you scrape it off, let it dry, and continue. So with our products, a tip is you're never really finished. If you want to do a little bit of a better job, or if you want to put a little bit more filler in there, you don't have to strip anything down or do anything. You just lay it over top of the existing finish, because of all of our products are what's called backwards compatible. You can apply the dyes, or you can apply the filler over top of the filler, over top of the dyes, first, afterwards, doesn't matter. As long as it's dried and cured and clean, you can apply the filler and redo that again. So I thought that was a good tip. Again, you can find this and many other products at leathertouchupdye.com.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or even share with your friends.